Ladies and gentlemen, welcome today to another predictions video on the channel. We're going to take you through my predictions on today's Penzoil 400 at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway. In-depth analysis both for your fantasy team and my pick to win today's race if you are a bettor. Definitely listen in because I have some great details on the drivers that you should and shouldn't have in your lineup and possible sleeper picks as always. Like, share, and subscribe for more daily NASCAR content, and we'll get right into this video. So we're going to start things off with the starting lineup for today's race. Kevin Harvick on the pole for the first time this season. Last week's winner, William Byron, will be starting outside pole in second. Another mile and a half. Look out for Byron, perhaps to make something special today. Mark Truex Jr. almost won this race a year ago if it wasn't for him getting into the wall and crashing late in that race. Kyle Larson's had some strong runs this year. He's also in the top five. And Michael McDowell coming in with 3 straight top 10s. To start the season, he will be starting in 5th. Denny Hamlin, the points leader, outside of him in row 3. Tyler Reddick, who was close to getting his first career win last week, will be starting just outside the top 10. Other guys starting just outside the top 10 who I expect to be fast. Joey Logano. Of course, always look out for Kyle Busch. He's at his home track here today. And we'll see what Chris Buescher can do. He was fast on a mile and a half last year as well. Now we'll take a look at some guys that are further back in the pack. So Ross Chastain are going to be starting just outside the top 10. Remember, he actually ran this race last year because he filled in for Ryan Newman and ran particularly well. He scored a few stage points until the very end when he ended up just getting loose and spinning out of control on his own, costing him a chance at a good finish. Bubba Wallace had a top 10 here in the spring last year as well. Ryan Blaney has finished in the top 10 in 4 of the last 10 races, so maybe he can finally have that bounce-back performance here today. More on that in a little bit as well. And Matt Benedetto, who has just absolutely been terrible this year, has not finished better than 28th in the first 3 races. Really needs some good luck. That way he can not only start to climb the point standings, but he can start better every week as well, which will help him in stage 1, of course. Sleeper picks for today's race, we're going to start off with Kyle Larson. Yes, Kyle Larson did run this race last year, at least in the spring, so there is that. That's one of the few races he was able to run last season, so I think that will come into play. This is the same package, obviously, that was ran in 2019 as well, so he's got 3 races under his belt at Vegas with this package. Nothing new there. Kyle Larson has shown a lot of speed this season, and all 3 races had a top 10 in the Daytona 500, had a top 5 last week at Homestead, and he was running second with a very good chance to win at the Daytona Road Course if he did not overrun turn 7 and end up in the tire wall there. So Kyle Larson's had very, very fast race cars. Very possible he could have finished inside the top 10 in all 3 races this year and in the top 5, and maybe even have 1 win this year if it wasn't for that. But coulda, woulda, shoulda. I think he'll be very strong here today. He's a very good sleeper pick for your guys' team. 3 top 5s and 3 top 5s and 5 top 10s in the last 6 Las Vegas starts for Kyle Larson, and that includes 2 runner-ups and a 3rd place finish as well in that stretch for those top 5. So look out for Kyle Larson to maybe even compete for a win here today. Matt Benedetto is another sleeper pick. Now, there's some pros and cons with this one. The cons, obviously, he hasn't finished better than 28th to start the season. Matt Benedetto, it's a risky pick, but he is a sleeper because he did finish runner-up, 2 second-place finishes in both Las Vegas races last season. The first race at Vegas, he didn't really run too hot, didn't even score any stage points, so it was outside the top 10. That crazy finish with the late race caution and the multiple pit strategies with the green-white checker finish costed a chance for Ryan Blaney to get a win, or even Alex Bowman to finish second when it looked like those two were going to finish 1-2. They finished both outside the top 10, despite leading laps there late in the race. Matt Benedetto ended up sneaking into second place. He was one of the guys that stayed out of the pits, and he just wasn't up towards the front. Now, the second race at Las Vegas last season, he very well showed much improvement. He had another second place finish, as mentioned, but he was actually running in the top 10 for most of the race and did score stage points in that race. So look for Matt Benedetto to have his best finish this season. I think that is a very well possibility that could happen, knowing that he needs to finish 27th or better to have his best finish today. And Vegas is known to have some crazy races, so maybe look for some of those underdogs to have better runs. Once again here today, Matt Benedetto could be one of those guys. The 2 drivers I have for the don't haves for this week is going to be Ryan Blaney and Eric Almarola. Yes, I'm a Blaney fan, and he does have recent success at Las Vegas. He's finished, again, in the top 10 for the last 6 races, and last year he almost didn't finish in the top 10. He ended up finishing 11th again. He would have won that race if a caution didn't come out with 2 laps to go to force an overtime finish. Ty Gordon decided it was in the best interest to bring him down onto pit road, which cost him a chance to win the race. He never got back inside the top 10. because there were a lot of drivers that stayed out ahead of him, and that really focused the randomization of the finishing order in the spring race last year at Vegas. Now, outside of that recent success, I do think he's got a very good possibility to have a bounce back performance today. The reason why he's a don't have is simply because he has not shown speed at all this season. Speed weeks, he did have a fast car, but got taken out in an early wreck, so I'm going to exclude that. Plus, it's a super speedway Daytona. You can't compare that to a mile and a half, especially with this package. Last week with the same package, I know it is a different racetrack and a different kind of mile and a half, but very similar as far as tire wear goes. Between these two tracks, again, you're going to see guys probably take tires, especially 4 tires, quite a bit in today's race. Track position isn't as much as multiple grooves around this Las Vegas track, so you're going to see some similarities from the racing that we had last week to the racing we're going to have this week at Las Vegas. But for Ryan Blaney's sake, yeah, hasn't shown much speed. He hasn't finished better than 15th this season, and he kind of lucked into that 15th place finish at the Daytona Road Course because he was running closer to 20th most of the race, but the crazy finish there allowed him to get a little bit better of a run. We mentioned the big wreck at Daytona on the 500, and he ended up getting in a wreck with Almarola last week. That was not Blaney's fault, but again, he was running right around 15th to 20th the whole race again. He just has not shown speed, and until he shows speed, he's not going to be in the must-haves or sleeper picks for the weeks to come. Now, he could show speed again today, but he's going to have to show consistent speed over the next couple races for me to change my mind on that. So I'm hoping he proves me wrong, of course, with me being a Blaney fan. I hope anybody proves me wrong in this video, but it's hard to do that because I bring the facts to the table. Another guy, Gamarola, he has not had a strong start to the season as well. He's actually behind Ryan Blaney in points, so that is not too special either for Almarola. Neither one of these two drivers have really scored stage points this year. Almarola has scored 0 stage points this season, and Blaney only has 3 in the first 3 races. So that is very strange for Blaney because he scored a lot of stage points last year. That was the reason why he had as many points as he did and was in the top 10 in points for most of the season. Actually finished 4th at the end of the he was 4th for the longest time. He fell back the last couple weeks to 7th in the regular season championships. Enough on Blaney, though. Almarola, he has not finished in the top 10 in the last 3 Las Vegas races. He did have success with 3 straight top 10s before that, but the last 3 hasn't been that great for him. The randomization of the finishing order maybe hurt him last year. I don't know where he was running before the caution came out, but Almarola has not shown any speed, and again, no top 10s in the last 3 races. Stay away from him. He can very well prove me wrong today, much like Blaney, but I just don't think it's a smart pick for you guys. There are better options, and here are the better options. So here today at Las Vegas, here are the must-haves. 3 drivers you should absolutely have in your lineup. We're going to start off with probably the most obvious. Brad Keselowski in the last 11 races at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway has 10 top 10s, 3 wins, and 7 top 5s in that 11 race stretch. Last year, he did not finish in the top 10 in the fall race that broke that streak of 10 straight top 10s going into that race. The spring race, he did finish in the top 10, even with a crazy finish. And the late race caution, he was still in the top 10, despite actually pitting before that stop. He worked one of the few drivers that worked his way back into the top 10 in those last 2 laps. Brad Keselowski definitely is probably the best driver at Vegas in that recent stretch, and the facts go to show for it. A guy that's also been close is his Penske counterpart, Joey Logano. Joey Logano's won the last 2 races at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway in the spring. Again, last 2 spring races. But why is that important? Because those are both day races. This is a day race today. With the race starting at 3:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, that means that it will be 12:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the West Coast when they start, which is where this race takes place. Therefore, it will be sunshiny all day long. The track conditions are not going to change much. So those guys that you're going to see up towards the front early in the race, once they get through the track position by the competition yellow and by the end of stage 1, I think those are going to be your drivers to compete for the win throughout the course. And Brad Keselowski's got a good starting spot inside the top 10. Logano's going to have to work for it a little bit more. But Logano, he has also led 45 laps in 4 of the last 5 races. 45 or more laps, I should say. And for the last 5 Las Vegas races, that is spring and fall. So Logano, another one of those must-haves in your lineups for today. Kevin Harvick is the last must-have. He starts on the pole due to the random draw earlier this week. He does have 1 win at Las Vegas in recent history, 2 in his career, but he's got 3 top 5s and 5 top 10s in the last 6 races. So similar to Kyle Larson's stats, only instead of the 2 runner-ups that Larson has, Harvick has a win to show for it. He's also led 88, 92, and 214 laps in each of the last 3 spring races. So Harvick seems to be better in the spring than what he is in the fall at Vegas. I would put all the chips into one setting, one place right there on Kevin Harvick to have a good day. He's also ran well with the 550 package all last season, 9 wins, majority of them on these types of racetracks, and I expect him to run well and compete for the win today. And now my pick to win today's race. I'm going to go with where the facts lie, where the stats are maybe in more favor of one driver versus the other. It was tough for me to pick between those top 3 on the must-haves of who I think is going to win today's race, but my pick is going to be Brad Keselowski to get his first win of the season. Keselowski and Harvick have been the 2 most consistent drivers this year. Keselowski really fell off the face of the earth in last week's race after leading a lot of laps in Stage 1 and running competitively for the entirety of the first half of the race, but when it turned to night, it was not his time. This is going to be a day race, so all the way throughout, so I think he will compete. Like I said, he's starting inside the top 10. Harvick being on the pole might be a little tough to beat in the first stage, maybe the second stage, but I think Keselowski having those 10 top 10s in the last 11 races and 3 wins versus Harvick's 1 win to show for gives him that edge with the statistic success, and I think that he can pull together a pretty good finish. Penske overall, when it comes to Las Vegas, all 3 cars, including Blaney, and even to Benedetto, if you want to include the affiliated team there with the Wood brothers having a runner-up finish in each of the last 2 years. The Penske cars know how to run well here at Vegas. We've seen Logano win races. Keselowski's won 3 as of late, too. So 5 wins there for Penske, and that's just in the last 7 seasons at Las Vegas. They used to race 1 race here a year instead of 2 from 2017 on back, so that's even less races than what you would think. In that 7 race stretch. That would be 10 races. They've won half of them. So, yeah, it's going to be tough to beat the Penske boys today, at least with Logano and Keselowski for sure. Blaney, again, a little leery, but I think he can get a top 10 today. Brad Keselowski is my pick to win today at Vegas. Comment down below your picks for Las Vegas. Who do you have on your fantasy team, perhaps? I will see you guys later in the post-race analysis video today. As well, we will be live streaming the live commentary during the course of the actual race at 3:30 Eastern Standard Time, so tune in for that one, as I'll do my realistic broadcast alongside with the race right here on YouTube. Subscribe and definitely hit that like button down below once again. Share this video, share any other content as we grow this channel on the road to 1,000 subscribers. Thanks everybody for watching. I'll catch you next time.